I'm excited for this. This is BioShock 2 at SGDQ 2014. Crazy. All right, let's see how bad of a run this is. Also, I guess this is the previous one. So they actually have me here underneath this camera. This layout's something special. This is also when they just like let you watch whatever the person is doing set up.
Doctors Without Borders. Doctors with.
When does this get set up? 6 minutes. Okay. This is me chilling here. Look at how short my hair is. I mean, my hair is still short, but it's so short. Jesus Christ. On couch, this is Yeti, I believe. Yeti, Laser Long, and this is Shadow Draft. I believe. Pretty sure. See that bald spot? Oh yeah. Super balding. So I think at this one, they used Diva mics, which like go on your ear and they wrap around, they go like right in front of your mouth, and they were kind of awful. And they only used them for like one event. Something. Okay. Let's go to the start. This is me. Yeah, you can see the mic for a brief second there. Like if you look at my shoulder, right there. So is this highest quality? 720p 60. Beautiful. Okay. So I think I'm waiting for like a countdown or something. Also, game audio is like throughout the venue. I don't have headphones on, obviously, which is a terrible idea. When you're just like hoping people aren't talking over the commentary and stuff. And for this, like you kind of need some audio cues for the diary skips and stuff. My name is literally going over top of my, over my face.
Sounds like we're all good.
All right, I'll let you know when to start timing. So you can even hear like the mic going in and out because it's like in a terrible spot. But something to love about this speedrun right off the bat is we can skip the opening cutscene. So oh my god, the audio is so bad. A few minutes every run. No introduction. No commentary. Just radio silence. You can start time now. Oh my god.
Anytime, anytime.
Alright, so we're off. For those that don't know BioShock 2's story, we play as an Alpha Daddy series, which is much like Big Daddy, only its predecessor. Alright, we're probably just gonna go on like what the run is like, because I can barely hear the audio and it's like cranked to its fullest. Maybe they'll fix it at some point. I don't know, but it's pretty bad. This is why they don't use it anymore. This is before audio, or Power Up Audio stepped in for SGDQs and kind of showed them how to do audio at live events. So you can kind of imagine what kind of weapons we'll get in the future. For now, we just have a trusty drill. We sing quite a bit of it. Too good of a weapon to get in the beginning. Something even better than the drill. This is also my, technically, it was my second event, my third run, because I had 2 events at SGDQ 2014. This is still when I was like super nervous to do anything in person, like public speaking or anything like that. So this is also me being like very, very nervous as well, which I still get nervous for GDQ runs, but this is like 7 years ago when I had less experience, obviously. That we're going to pick up is we can skip a lot of the dialogue in this game. You'll see in just a second.
I've read out your disease once already.
By playing the diaries we pick up, we can actually just skip over cutscenes from different NPCs. Estimates of 140. I didn't even see the estimates 140. Oh my god. That is so high. I mean, it's the count for like crashing and stuff. But man, 140 for BioShock 2. That's crazy. I mean, I got a 121, but still. Just kind of a quick rundown of the plot. Big Daddy. And we're on a quest to get our little sister back, as we would have seen in the opening cutscene, had we not skipped it.
Daddy was sleeping.
Thanks for the spoilers,
for such
bro.
a long time, and Eleanor has missed you. Find her and you'll be all better.
That was something.
So people, because I was just doing BioShock 1 no plasmid speedruns, this right here is why you cannot do BioShock 2 no plasmid speedruns, because you cannot get out of this room currently without shocking this door. You can't die in here, you're physically soft locked in until you open that door. That way with Electrobolt we can abuse this as well. We need to open the door and to turn on the generator. But we can't do that until this splicer's dead. So. This guy we don't need to kill, but why not? Look at those sick hops. That's something you'll see a lot in this run is I don't need to kill splicers, I just don't want them in my way, so might as well take them out.
Ah, at last a signal. You who are bringing this dead city to life, listen.
So the first little bit
of I know who you are.
This game
I am in much
kind of moves slowly because it's explaining all the stuff that's going on.
Find me in the
background.
Atlantic Express train
We'll
station.
still do some cool stuff. The audio's so bad. If you've ever played this game, you might have tried to win this fight. You actually don't need to fight at all.
So you're saying it's scripted?
Almost.
Huh. Shocker, I didn't know that.
It's almost like you can't die.
What?
Playing with me.
So the way this fight works is there's two things that needs to move on. One's a simple timer. The other, either yourself or the big sister here. The one thing I noticed, and I think this comes into play in just a little bit, the graphics aren't on potato mode, meaning we're not playing on the lowest graphic settings, which is done to prevent crashing. Wink, wink. But I mean, it actually looks decent. You know, it's rare to see BioShock 2 enough damage, not potato mode. Neither one of us can actually die, so I'm just gonna tank the damage. Wait by the door. Oh, I was so sassy back in the day. The easiest way to do that is just to stand in the fire. Yeah, so you don't need to actually fight at all here. You just either need to take a lot of damage or do a lot of damage. Damage. We just have to wait for the timer to go off, which did. So far, so good. This is all standard. You can actually see two big sisters, but it's kind of hard to tell what's going on.
This is Dr. Sophia.
Like how anytime I start a sentence, you can hear briefly what I'm saying, and then it just trails off. It just like dives down.
With a message from
You hear the first part, and then you're just like, wait, what? What do you say?
always watching. To steal Adam, to steal from the Rapture family. Your family.
You can actually kind of control where you spawn by moving during all this, but it's really obnoxious to tell where you end up, and there's no consistent way of going to a certain place.
In that suit, even
Just
the
kind of
ocean
wiggle your
cannot
mouse and
harm
get
you.
lucky.
This is good.
Is
But
it random where
Rapture
you
is
end
the
up,
death of
or
many great
does it
men.
matter?
Alone,
It doesn't
you
really
will
matter
not
where
last
you end
long.
up. You're only going to
You can still reach the train station. Find me there.
I don't know why they didn't flip the camera, the webcam, so I'm like further on the right and you can see me more. That you don't see in BioShock 1 is these underwater scenes. That would make way more sense. But you get to see some cool stuff.
Yeah, they're absolutely beautiful.
We get to see a shark here. My chat and I have named him Roger James Jr., so whenever you see a shark, think of him. Another big sister just running off in the distance. Oh, we're through one level. Woo! Good job, previous me. I think the tech was telling me like, hey, move the thing closer to your mouth or something like that. So I noticed I looked off camera for just like a brief second, but the first level is pretty standard. Nothing's changed in the last 7 years. Right now we're out of the first area. We can actually do some really cool stuff. This first trick is a bit hard to explain.
Got audio?
Don't worry, I have to do it multiple times in the run, so immediately upon spawning in, I'm going to do a quick save, and then hopefully I get it there. You might remember me saying that diaries are very important. How
many tries?
This isn't really a frame-perfect trick, but it's about as close as you can get to it, and like I said, you have to do it 5 times in a run, so...
Not starting off great for this, but these are actually just
a little bit
hard to do.
Too soon. There we go. Okay, not too bad. So as you may notice, Tenenbaum's message is not playing anymore, and no actual radio message will play in the whole entire level. And we skip about 1.5 minutes worth of dialogue. So.
Doesn't seem as simple as BioShock 1 with the diary skips.
Yeah, diary skip for a long time wasn't useful because we didn't have a good method for it, but since we can skip the entire level, it's worth going for. It's not quite as simple as the method in BioShock 1, but we actually do have a more consistent method. It's just not nearly as useful. So, in this part, you might wonder, because I said there's not going to be any more radio messages. This part and a few others actually work on a more global system, so they're still going to play, although they appear to be skipped.
Oh yeah, look like the keyboard.
Wow, that's rude.
Have some fun.
I think I don't remember if I can't tell. Like when I went to HGDQ 2014, it was my first event, and I didn't really bring. I didn't like have a mechanical keyboard to bring. I didn't really even know what mechanical keyboards were back then. I might have brought my mouse. I don't think I did. I can't remember. I think between that event and this one, I did. I think I bought some Razer Blue Switch keyboard, Razer Black Widow. Something like that. And I might have been using it here. I think I brought my mouse as well. Possibly. But I can't tell, obviously, because the monitor's in the way.
Now, would you say this runs more combat-oriented than BioShock 1, whereas opposed that's more glitch-oriented?
Kind of. Because in BioShock 1 you actually skip entire stages, you cut out of a lot of the combat, so it is focused more on the glitches. BioShock 2's level design was a little bit more careful in planning. It makes it really hard to skip entire levels. So yeah, we had to go through a few fights, but...
So I don't want to like correct myself or talk over myself, because I don't know if I'm going to explain stuff later on. Maybe towards the end of the run I'll do it, but... Laz Laser Long on the Couch is offering good snippets of things to talk about. He talked about the difference of radio diaries at the beginning of the level between like, oh, this is different than BioShock 1, which is like a great point that like if there's dead air, which BioShock 2 has a lot of just like walking through a level or doing combat, you can talk a lot about the differences. And then he mentioned stuff about like the run being more combat oriented. Which I kind of use that as a springboard, but I don't really give the answers I should be. I kind of give like a non-answer answer. BioShock 1 makes the best speedrun. 2 and Infinite have really cool tricks to them, but a lot of downtime in between those tricks.
Big of a deal.
Huh, it's like devs actually learned.
Yeah.
I'm almost certain the game crashes in this part. Yep.
That's intended.
Yeah.
And this is why you make...
That's the one thing I actually remembered from this run is the game crashing in this level.
Full saves.
Yep. He came prepared, ladies and gentlemen. Do not worry. Just like BioShock.
I don't think you can actually save in the water, so I have to save...
They learn level design.
The next part
not
over.
programming.
But the problem with this, and I might talk about it, is if you... I had a lot of saves, Jesus Christ. If you do the diary skip, and then the game crashes, or you like leave the level and come back to it for whatever reason, the diary skip is no longer valid. So you have to listen to all the audio, and I think that's what ends up happening. Because like having a save with it in there doesn't apply the effect. You'd have to do another diary skip. So effectively, the crash wasted time, but then also going for the diary skip essentially wasted time in the end because of that.
Still on world record pace, just a reminder.
I can't believe I had that many
sure
safety
exactly
saves.
Where the save is, so I might need to look at the other one. A little too far in the run. Let's go back one. Yep, this is basically right out of the water, so...
Yeah, you can't save in the water. That's why it's right there. There's a lot of times in this game where you can't save.
Unfortunately, the crash didn't really lose too much time because I loaded a save. It's about the same.
But if you are clever,
But you might notice that there's now radio messages, and I can't do another diary skip because we don't know where to do another one.
I know you're awake in there. I can feel
Oh,
it.
that's horrible.
Mother won't be able to toy with
You can diary skip off of any diary in the game, but the problem is, unless you know exactly when one's going to start, which no one really knows because everyone just does the diary skip from the beginning and then everything else gets skipped, it's like impossible to tell when it's going to happen. You have to make a save, find out when it is, then make another save, and so on and so forth. So effectively, if you don't get it, then you're listening to audio for the rest of the level.
with you like that ever again. This plasmid is for you. If I'm right, you can use it now. Please, find me.
So Eleanor, the character we just saw, is our actual little sister that we're trying to get back, and throughout the game she's going to help us in many different ways. Here she gives us the telekinesis plasmid, which if you've seen BioShock 1 speedruns, you might know the very usefulness of it. Unfortunately in this game it got a huge nerf, so we're not going to use it quite as much.
Sophia Lamb is using the splicers against you.
Its really only
Daddies are like her
purpose in
slaves,
BioShock
guarding
2
the little ones.
is to pick up things from far away or to throw exploding
Has
barrels.
awakened you.
These
I
splicers
know
can
you're
just get in your
born
way,
with
so
Helena Delta.
take them out.
To save yourself, you will.
My
come.
favorite BioShock is Minerva's Den.
But Eleanor has a destiny, one you cannot share.
Apparently there's a trick in this elevator now where you can like death warp out of it, which is cool. I'll look into it.
Quickly, head
Yeah,
for the elevator.
all seems pretty much the same. Only like the late game stages should really be any different. I don't know what skips
Now, here is
were
what the
found back
children
then.
tell
I'm
me.
very curious
Because
to
we're
know.
still in the
You
beginning of the
are
game,
a very
it wants
old
to tell us
Big
about
Daddy,
what's going on.
bonded for life
Here we get
to
more
a
of the
single
backstory.
Little one. When you are apart
Ladies
for
and
too
gentlemen, that's
long,
called
your body
exposition.
begins to shut down like a cauldron.
Thank you, Les.
As long as the girl is in the rapture, you
more
are
you know.
trapped here as well.
Typically
The
during
name
a
of
run,
your
this
little
entire
one
elevator ride's silent,
Is
so
Eleanor
kind
Lamb,
of weird.
daughter of
Don't know what to do.
Sophia. She is kept at Fontaine Futuristics on the other side of the city.
So did the
You
dialogue
must
come
go
back because
there
you loaded
and
a save, or
her
because that save had
before it
not
is
the
too
diary
late.
skip in it?
Anytime you leave an area, the audio goes back to normal. So if you even load another save while you're still in that area with the glitched out message, they'll still be glitched out.
I see.
That's why we have to do it in every stage, because it doesn't carry over once you leave.
See how my first arena fight goes.
So we need to take out another splicer, so we can activate a lever. I'm just gonna shoot him. You can actually prevent this from occurring if you just like, as you can see there's a square box I'm looking in. If you never look in that square box and just fight it, you can
She
just
is
avoid
using
this
the
forever.
new little ones for something.
That's not what
But I
I'm
have
gonna do.
returned to rescue them. If I do not, more children will die for my sake.
So yeah, this game will a lot of times it's kind of the same for 1. If you just like 2's more about like moving your camera into the right spot and locking you in there. But if you're just constantly moving your mouse or controller, cursor, whatever away, it just won't start the cutscene because you need to be looking at Tenenbaum for it to start. You get stuck there in place anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I guess it's a fun thing you can do.
Will repeat forever.
I've completely forgotten about that.
We must talk. Citizens of Rapture. This is Subject Delta.
So now we're being introduced to Sophia Lamb, the biological mother of our little sister, who's
or sympathy.
Trying her darndest
It is a
to
beast
keep us away,
apart,
but
and as family,
can't stop
we
us.
must tear out its
Family.
soul and drive it back into the sea.
Lamb will take this place apart to find you. Please hold back the splicers until we escape.
This fight's a bit random at the ends. The first two waves are pretty consistent, because they spawn on the opposite sides. Unfortunately, the third set can spawn on either side, so...
Okay, not bad.
Wasn't too bad.
I didn't get the
If they
message.
spawn on that side, they can actually jump down and just
Thank
run
you.
away.
Now I must leave you, and I am sorry for this. But there are others I must help before the city drowns. This man Sinclair, he is an ally.
I'm not picking up the
and will
diary
guide
here?
you to Eleanor.
I thought you needed the diary for the next
This is
couple of-
typically where we save time in a run if we do
Good
diary
luck.
skips, because we don't have to wait for this message to play out, or the one on the train here.
What do you call
Oh my god, I'm getting an ad.
double the
Oh
season-
my god, get out of here. Alright, let me sign into my actual account. Jesus Christ. The ads, dude. The ads. Oh my god. What are we at? Look at that delicious thing that they're not paying me to showcase.
This isn't...
That's
and this-
Atlantic Express.
It's pretty bad.
City drowns.
I didn't think that would happen. Alright, get this out of here. There we go.
This man Sinclair, he is an ally, and will guide you to Eleanor.
Taco Bell. Hey, they're not paying me.
This is typically where we
Get
save
him outta
time
here.
in a run if we do diary
2006
skips,
pretty
because we
good
don't have
game.
to wait for this message to play out, or the one on the train here.
Well, look at you.
It's a game,
bona
for
fide
sure.
knight in armor, complete with iron horse. The name's Augustus Sinclair Sport, Esquire.
I like how the timer is just
Old
like
Tenenbaum
impossible
and I
to see.
share an interest in the old Fontaine building, the very same place you'll find Eleanor Lamb. I think you and I can do business. Take the train to Ryan Amusements. I'll see you shortly.
So if you've ever played through this game casually, you may not have noticed it, but Ryan's Amusement is probably the worst amusement park in all of history.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
There is only one ride in Ryan's Amusement Park, and it's the Journey to the Surface, which is
It's
not
very
too
propaganda heavy.
But first we
amusement
need to do another diary skip, so we'll have to wait until the train comes to a stop to do that.
Whoa there. Now better apply the brakes unless you're aiming to dash yourself against that glacier up ahead.
First try? Nope. Not a first try. I reset. Get him out of here.
Unfortunately, there's no way a good way of practicing this, because
No
every
way
time you
good.
go to do a run, your quick save's going to be different, and that affects the timing drastically. There we go.
Nice.
Typically, you want to get those in about 3 tries or less. Considering this is a marathon, it's not too bad.
Are all of them equally precise?
Yes. Like I mentioned before, there's a more consistent way of doing them, but it only skips one message, so you'd have to do it multiple times, and it wastes more time than it's worth. We're gonna get our first upgrade here. It's gonna be drill efficiency, which we actually don't need for quite a while, at least until like middle of the next stage. But we don't get another upgrade by the time that we actually need it, so we actually have to get it here.
Yeah, so it's drill efficiencies for drill dashing, which you don't unlock until poppers drop. And it's really, really nice to have because it saves you money and you can drill dash more without having to refill. But because there's no other thing you can pick up before then, you just get it here. Although something like machine gun damage or drill damage is much more useful. Which I think nowadays, if I remember right, you get drill damage here and then you get drill efficiency just sometime after you get drill dash.
How many upgrades do you get throughout the run?
Throughout this run, we now get 3 upgrades. It used to be 4, we'd get 2 in this area, but we found a death warp that skips one of them, so.
Nice.
The thing with couches, right, especially back then, in terms of BioShock 2 runners, it was pretty much me and the segmented runners who just weren't there, obviously. So it's 3 people who really, I mean, one, haven't ever done a run before, people who haven't seen a run before, and also just early on, like, runners were just, you know, people. They weren't there to be, like, super commentary heavy or, you know, there weren't a whole lot of couches like, oh, this is what a couch should be like. It's just, these were people that I knew. They were awake at the time of the run, so they can be on there. Laz ran BioShock 1 for a little bit, which is why he's helping out with some of the commentary more on that. Like Shadow Draft is from the Frictional Games community. Yeti ran like Portal and some other games as well. So it's like a lot of times with couches, and it's why I just tend to do solo commentary. It's, you have to, if you want like the hype couches, you're going to find those more on like the big franchises that have lots and lots of runners and people who like talk about the run with each other all the time, which for a lot of games just is never going to be the case. Even a popular franchise like BioShock, there's really not too many active runners that care about GDQs to even do commentary for. Yeah, no hype allowed.
Pretty good trade.
Like back in these days, it was either you have a couch like this, or you have something that ends up on a cringe comment compilation, right? Those are your 2 options. You don't have like the super well-known hype stuff going on for the most part.
So one really nice thing the devs did for speedrunners is they gave us this tonic. This is Sports Boost 1. Gives us a 10% increase in movement speed. Makes us go a little faster.
Oh yeah, we used to do this little jump around. This saves no time compared to just like walking to the other side.
There's a second tonic, which is going to increase the power of the drill. First we need to skip Eleanor from talking. That. Now we're going to take on an actual Big Daddy. We'll have to kill multiple of these in the entire run. This one's a bit special. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to get him over by the door so that when I pick up the little sister, I can immediately leave. So one thing you might have noticed if you're quick enough is that there is no option to harvester or saver. There's just pick her up. Unfortunately for the first one, we actually have to go through the escort mission. Later on, we just have to pick them up and deal with them. So for now, we're just going to protect her.
Don't you love escort missions?
They're the best. They should make a BioShock game with an entire escort mission.
Oh, please, dude. Oh, it's so bad.
Joke at infinite expense. Very funny, haha.
At least the money didn't despawn this time.
Yeah, the money can sometimes just not appear. Money's not really an issue in this run unless you just don't know what you're buying. When I first picked up this game, I was blowing all my money all the time, but considering we skip a lot of stuff now and optimized it, money is not an issue.
But resource management is still important, right?
Yes. Most of the time I'll only buy fuel, as you'll see in the next stage why it's important.
What? Spoilers.
I'm sorry. Cover your ears. But sometimes I'll actually buy certain types of grenades to make the end fights go faster. Also some spoilers.
Man, this stream.
So now we're going on the only ride in Ryan's amusement, Journey to the Surface. We can actually just walk right through this.
Not as bad as Small World.
It's pretty close.
Oh, yeah.
It's not even finished.
My favorite song coming up.
Oh no, we're gonna DMCA'd. They're gonna come for me. I don't know if it was known at the time that you could despawn the enemies. I think it was like something that could happen, but no one really knew why. Or like just leaving the enemies alive in the previous part. So we do this fight even though you don't really have to. It doesn't really change the time. It's just nicer not having to fight stuff.
We're gonna keep this barrel outside the room. Not just to save the room from fire, but we're actually gonna need that in just a moment for a skip. First, we need to protect the little sister again. If I just stand in this back corner, the turret will do a lot of the work. Unfortunately, some of the splicers do get by, so I still have to watch her.
Wow, that's lazy.
There is actually a method to keep them from spawning altogether.
Hey,
I like getting some of the resources, though. I'm not quite as lazy as I could be.
I feel like for a lot of these, like, I think so much more negatively about my previous self in terms of commentary that I just don't expect myself to, like, mention things like that along the way.
Looks like your turret's on fire.
Yeah.
Oh, well. It was on fire.
The turret doesn't always make it. He served the purpose.
Daddy, are you taking
You ain't her real dad.
Wow, that was harsh.
Yeah, some of the splicer quotes are just pure gold. Alright, so we're gonna take our barrel and head to the air vent. Unfortunately, in this level, they only put one air vent in the entire section. Every other stage has like 5 per square foot. And that's kind of why this game's really hard to break. Because of stuff like this, you actually have to go to a specific point to trigger the next event. So on. Right, so we're going to drop the barrel and put down some safety measures.
A lot of safety measures, actually.
This is a strat you're going to see quite often. If you hack something and purposely fail it, you'll just take damage.
Nice little harvests.
So I harvest this first little sister because I need the extra atom. I actually cannot do the route without it. A lot of people don't really care for that method, but they can't really help it. Hacking a machine will never actually kill you. That's why we need the barrel, so that we can do that.
Death warp strats.
This takes us right up to the main entrance. There's a lot of splicers around.
That AI.
So now we're going to head over and get Incinerate, which we need to melt the ice to leave. And we're going to step another death warp. But I don't want to take too much damage, otherwise I risk having to do another death warp.
How prevalent are death warps? Will you be using them constantly, or just this is a one-time deal right now?
There's quite a few in this run now. This next death warp actually only saves like maybe a second. But it's for convenience sake.
What?
So you're supposed to fight the big sister here, and we're actually going to. But we're going to do the death warp first so we can get her to a spot.
I mean, I guess it doesn't save that
more
much
to our
time,
liking.
but a second, I think, is undermining it a
We
bit.
come out to this broken clock tower and die on top of it.
I'm going to trust previous self. It's a second time save.
So now we need a few splicers, hopefully. Come on.
AI, please.
There we go.
Nice shot.
I hear a creaking of the floorboard.
So we go to this Vita chamber here, and that door right there is actually locked. And it's only unlocked after you kill the big sister, so it gets us around that. But like I said, we need the extra atom, so we're actually going to kill the big sister. We're just going to do it inside the train station so she can't run away. Also, if you walk against this wall, you actually get stuck right here. Kind of a weird
I like
feature.
to look a man in the eye when I give him my word. You and me, kid, we're going places.
Meanwhile.
I kind of mentioned it before, and that's the best I'm going to mention it in this run. Like, the game's hard to break because you have to go to, like, I think I said a specific spot to trigger something, but you have to complete one objective for the next one to even become active. So you can melt that ice blocking the train with an exploding barrel. You don't need incinerate, but it doesn't become explodable or meltable until you buy incinerate. So even if you throw a barrel at it, as soon as you get out of the train, it won't melt. But as soon as you buy incinerate, you can melt it with the barrel. And then to buy incinerate, you have to harvest the little sister. To harvest the little sister, you have to go through both of the bodies. And so on and so forth. It's just like a cascading effect, which means you can never sequence break it because the things you need to work with just won't let you progress until you've done the things before. Because otherwise you would just come into this level, pick up the exploding barrel right away, melt the ice and leave. And you'd skip like 90% of the level that way. The exploding barrel is right where that locked door is, where I did the death warp. It's just right there. So you'd walk up the stairs, grab that, melt the ice, pull the lever, and leave. Theoretically.
That wasn't too bad. So now we've gotten the escort mission out of the way, the run really starts to pick up. And we actually get a really fast way of moving in Popper's Drop, which is why we need drill efficiency. And a whole lot of things are going to come together. But first, we need to buy more stuff.
Really quick, the developer is in chat and is trying to get a hold of us right now, so we're getting that set up as soon as we can.
So, oh man, I forgot that even happened. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. There is one of the devs, it was like GB LeBreton or something like that. He worked on BioShock 1 as well, and he's actually the developer that a long time ago, he did a playthrough of a couple levels from the first game. And if you watch my BioShock 1 run from GDQ, I mentioned a dev that talked about shocking the door and that being a bug that was left in the game on purpose. He was the one that I watched do it. So whenever this was coming up, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, we're doing this thing. And I'd seen like, I think SGDQ 2014 had some dev. I think it was Laz's run. He did Charles Barkley Shut Up and Jam, Gaiden, or whatever it's called. And he had the devs, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool thing. Let me reach out to this guy about it. But he didn't like get back to me until like right before the run, or maybe I didn't reach out in time to get it all set up. So like right before the run, John Paul LeBreton, yeah, that guy. I was trying to get him on like Skype and like try to figure that out with the GDQ staff at the time, and we just couldn't make it work. So he ended up like he wasn't even like the Twitch chat. He was in, at the time they had like an IRC chat as well. And he was in there like answering questions, I think. Is who they're talking about. So it's like, I almost, this run almost had dev commentary. It was like an extra hour maybe. We might have had dev commentary for BioShock 2.
No. Oh. Correction, I'm sorry. The developer is in SDA's QuakeNet chat.
Yeah,
so if you go to gamesdonequick.com and you want to ask him some questions about the game, that's where to go.
Somebody give me a laptop.
We are the family.
I'll be right back.
Alright, we're gonna steal this barrel from the brute.
Lab's trying to box us in, kid.
And we do this so we can get a little bit more money. We actually don't need that money at all. So we can live without it. Why not do it? So with all that extra add-on we got, we're going to buy a plasmid slot, the decoy plasmid, Wonder Blast, and Drill Lurker tonic. Okay.
The Sinclair Deluxe. Find her and get that key.
So each one of these is going to come into play in a little different way. First, we're going to use decoy to keep this brute here. Typically, he's going to run off and you have to chase him down. We don't want that. Next, we're going to enter the store code.
Oh, that almost looked so clean. One too far over. I think that was the same staff member correcting himself. This is back when they had like no staff at all. You had like 1 or 2 people maybe checking donations and stuff, and then like 2 people on tech that were on like a 12-hour shift or something. Very, very minimal setup.
Before he runs off. Good. And now we pick up the camera, which is actually really useful for the entire speedrun. And show it off here. Anytime you take a picture of an enemy, you can get certain perks. So if we take a picture of this group, hit him with a few different plasmids, we get Drill Dash, which is this right here.
Tells you more about his DNA. Let's give it a dry run.
I'm sure people know how the camera in BioShock 2 works, but the more varied your attacks, the more points you get. And the more points you get, the faster you get to the research, because they're at certain point thresholds. So just stacking a whole bunch of plasmids on top of them and hitting them with the Drill Dash gives you enough points for Drill Dash. Right, just hitting with the drill. Thank you, Fire Truck, for the bits. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Shall we?
It allows us to move.
Yeah, it was real late minute, like trying to get the dev on commentary. I think what happened is I was in contact with them, and then I told him to get in contact with the GDQ staff, and something there just fell apart. And then so I like mentioned to the GDQ staff sometime before the run, and they were trying to get it set up, and it fell apart, unfortunately. Maybe if I ever get BioShock 2 on another GDQ, or bring them back.
Very, very quickly across the stage, but you might notice in the bottom left we have a little gas gauge. That's why we need to get drill efficiency.
Just rev up that drill of yours and slam right through that.
Because every time you do a drill dash, it consumes fuel. So once you run out, you can't drill dash anymore.
But that big lug just dropped.
I don't think we knew that.
Now to break through that mess.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we knew. If you get drill dash and then come over here, you have to wait for a certain point of dialogue to pass before you can break this. But once you get drill dash at any point, if you do, if you take a death and respawn, you don't have to wait for that for whatever reason. So that's why a lot of times in runs now, you'll get drill dash and like immediately die and respawn. There was a strat, I felt like it was at this point, but I guess it was shortly after, where you'd come over here, trigger this, and then you'd use Incinerate to take a death in the same area.
I have to work out how he got.
So at this point, they're telling me to go get the camera and drill dash and all that stuff that we already just did, because
since you
you're not supposed to have
your
it.
hands on a genetic research camera, this next part will be easier. That's it, son.
We're going to put down decoy to distract the splicers as we go through the Sinclair Deluxe.
Now,
and we're just going to drill dash through the entire thing.
And take them out on film. Before long, you'll be able to brush aside.
2 important things to know about drill dashing is if you do it in too small of an area and you hit a wall, you get stunned for a few seconds and it's basically losing time. And if you hit a splicer, you lose all momentum. And sometimes splicers just jump in your way. So we're going to buy more drill fuel. Something you'll see me do quite often. Here's a brute, we're going to freeze him.
Was on the top floor. Get on up there and persuade her to give you that.
You may notice I'm taking damage, and it's for death warp, in case you haven't put that together.
Gracie's room is just up ahead. Now, she's been sending all manner of unkindness your way, so I'm not particular as to how you take that key away from her, but
Do you ever accidentally die in the wrong place trying to do a death warp? Or are they usually pretty consistent?
What was that?
Do you ever die in the wrong place trying to do a death warp, or are they usually consistent?
Typically, you can do them consistently if you don't take too much damage. There's a lot of ways to take damage at the very end if you really need to, but...
I know what you're here for.
So we don't do this death warp in the run anymore.
Most of the time, if you die, you don't go that far back from where you actually need to go, so you only lose a few seconds.
To care for her child. And I tried. But baby Eleanor disappeared. And then one day, I see her walking with you.
So we don't really care about Grace at all. What we care about is the card on her desk and the chair that she just got out of. Those are the two important things in the room.
It is slower to kill her, right?
Killing her doesn't actually benefit us, so taking the time to actually kill her would just be unnecessary.
But it's for plot. Character development.
Your call, friend. Grace is unarmed for what it's worth.
The reason we don't death warp here anymore is
dying
one,
there
because
takes-
this animation's a little long, and there's also free fuel in this hallway that you can stock back up on, which is really nice to have, especially going into Dionysus Park, or not Dionysus Park, Siren's Alley. Have that extra bit of drill fuel is really, really nice. So we just like run back out, drop down, pick that up, and we're basically in the same spot. We lose a little time here, but we save it from just the drill dashing alone.
Back down to the bottom. If you don't do a death warp, you can just jump straight down. Only a few seconds.
For Grace, the paradise of Andrew Ryan.
Also, if you hit an item, it can just throw you completely to the side.
Spoke against him in song.
Drill dashing into like a box
Usually that's not an
or
issue,
something
but
is
it's
really
certainly
annoying.
You have to watch out for it.
Family, she has found hope, a reason to draw breath.
Like one small little rock will just send you flying across the room in the wrong direction.
Oh my god.
By sparing Grace, do you...
The one problem with drill dashing, 'cause I love it so much, is you actually have to hit two buttons like almost at the same time, which is kind of annoying if you get in the wrong timing.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't fire properly. You have to hit
Well, I
right
mentioned
mouse
earlier when we
and
That
shift.
crash, that
I think is the default.
dialogue stuff doesn't transfer over. But if you do that last area fast enough, the beginning of this area actually gets glitched out for some reason.
Yeah, I still don't know why the audio here bugs out.
Obviously not
Weird.
speaking. This is the best.
Maybe he has nothing to say.
We get completely sniped out of this train. The train's still intact and keeps moving, but we just get thrown out of it.
You just get hit right in the face with a torpedo and go flying out the side. Get the
And once again, we're in
camera.
the water, which is pretty cool. And the door right in front of us leads to the next area, but we can't open that quite yet.
You can actually get like on top of this whole section. You can get like on top of the map and then back behind this, but there's just no way inside. And like the lever doesn't work until you deal with stuff in Siren's Alley anyways. It's another instance of just like, theoretically, like if you had the ability to clip into there, you should be able to skip it. But because like the lever to the end of the game or the end of the level isn't active until you get the previous quest line done, it just becomes meaningless. There's just never going to be a way to skip it.
We're gonna turn around and go this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick up these atom slugs. I actually don't need to pick them up, but they're right here, so I just kind of like to do it anyways.
100% go.
This is really where fighting becomes a part of the run. We have two big fights that we have to do. Neither one is particularly difficult. There's a little trick I'm going to try to set up. We'll see how it goes.
Little trick I'm gonna try to set up.
The beast of Ryan lives.
Is that gonna be the thing on the way back?
I think Mother knows I'm helping you like this. She's
We have to enter another
accelerating
door
my
code.
treatments. Don't give up on me.
So now the lights are going to kick off and we have to kill stuff in the dark. So I don't know whether it's entering the door code too fast or what, but you can actually glitch the lights to stay on. Typically it's really dark in this portion. Every now and then they actually stay on.
Less stay on and just like sometimes
camera,
there's
take some more pictures.
a lot brighter than they should be.
If we take pictures of spider splicers, we actually get more movement speed. This first guy's going to jump even if you hit him with Winter Blast, so I'm just going to use Incinerate in the machine gun.
So the thing with this, I mentioned the camera earlier, like using different plasmids and different guns gives you different points. Varying it up, it gives you a lot more points than just using the same thing over and over again, which is why typically now, whenever you go to do this, you'll have different weapons, like you'll use trap rivets and the turret for one, and then you'll use Winter Blast and whatever else, and then Incinerate, and the machine gun, and then you finish off the rest with an Electric Bolt and the drill, just varying up the research points so you can get to the part faster. Otherwise, you have to get it off Simon Wales, and that's really slow. But I think that's what
really
ends up happening here.
Use the Electric Bolt, unless something goes terribly, terribly wrong.
Go all of it's on. Oh, standing in this corner. Also, I don't think we knew to pick up the auto hack dart off that body. The body on the stairs always has an auto hack dart, which we use to run.
Pipe breaks, they're always going to spawn according to where you are. So if I just stand in this corner, I can always get them to come to me. Once we kill 6 of them, we've already killed 2. We're going to go for a little
BT. It was me 7 years ago. Oh yeah, this is way before I became partnered.
Okay. We're going to jump down, jump across, and jump up. So this door's actually not here. Kill the
years
before he
before.
actually is supposed to spawn in.
Wow, nice. I'm impressed.
Okay, so that's the first big fight that we have to do. The second one's less of a random set of waves. It's kind of a quote-unquote boss fight.
Each of you know the child of the land. Through Adam, our souls
He's basically just a normal spider splicer with increased health, which makes him really annoying to kill. So we're gonna get drill damage there. Typically we would have gotten that back in Ryan's Amusement, but
I think we get that's where you get drill efficiency now.
Once again, drill fuel for when we
I think the two are swapped. Could be wrong, but I think so.
There we go. Okay.
Either you end up getting the increased movement speed there, and you're pretty much done with spider splicers, or if you don't get it there, you have to get it off Simon Wales, the boss of the area. And it's just you already have to like set up other things for them, or at least I do. I like to use the little mini turrets, and having to take a photo in between there is really annoying.
It's those. You just leave them alone. Okay, so here comes the quote-unquote boss.
Yeah, using little mini turrets.
We're gonna shock his little buddy to get him out of the way, and then we're just gonna freeze him. If you actually freeze him when he's jumping in the air, you can just get him stuck in the middle.
Ideally, you hit him with Winter Blast, you hit him twice with the drill, and then you refreeze him, and that'll keep him permanently stuck, so you can just drain his like freeze meter instead of his health, and he dies a little bit faster, instead of having him unfreeze and refreeze and stuff like that.
Unfortunately, he didn't do it that time.
Jumping in the air doesn't really matter at all.
So once we hit that lever, we're actually stuck in this room.
Once you
That's
transfer
not
our
a problem.
section to Dionysus Park, We've got a tiny window of opportunity to get you inside. I don't have much
Now,
air
do you keep
left, but I'll hang
invincibility
in
frames
there.
similar to
You make
BioShock
sure
1
you're
where
ready
you
before
won't
you
die on
throw
it
that
like
switch.
immediately?
Yes and no.
They cut the power on.
If
What
you
an
go
answer.
down to like 1 or 2 health, you have those invincibility frames, which last for a few seconds, but if you're continuously taking damage, like I was there, you just skip over those.
Alright.
And its name is Legion.
So I'm also going to say yes and no to myself on that statement. You do the way it works. And I think this is the same for 1. I'd have to think about it for a second longer. But whenever you take damage, once you get down to like 1 health, or basically where you're like 1 hit away from death from whatever source of damage you take, you get invincibility frames and you can't die for like a couple seconds, and then you can take that last hit, which is why if you see someone death warping and they need to take damage, they'll take damage and then they'll sit there for a few seconds and then you'll take it the last tick and die. But if you've already hit those invincibility frames in that level and you like regen health and you haven't died, when you go to do it again, you don't get those invincibility frames. So you just straight up die. So if you're like 50 health, go down to 1, get your invincibility frames, and then you use a med pack to go back up to 50. When you go back down again, you'll just die. You won't ever hit those invincibility frames. So yes and no. Minerva Sten's my favorite BioShock game.
Eleanor Lamb is our salvation.
And so this whole place is trying to flood, and we actually still have 1 more trick to do. Gonna take a second.
Attaboy, sport. I think you're closing in on Simon's underground temple. Now get down to pumping station number 5 and drain out the park here. Oxygen's running thin.
The fun thing about Decoy, which is the plasmid you see in front of us, is
cut short.
it just shows up randomly. We can't actually use it.
Yourself, Delta.
There.
You who have
And that's not the one trick I'm talking about. Once we get up here, we can actually get our weapons back. And if I switch to the drill and drill dash out, I just get to keep it. So.
Oh, I don't go for the one over the wall.
Instead of walking all the way over here, we can just drill dash.
Must we pay?
So this is the faster way of going around, but the fun way of going around is
instead of walking all the way over here, we can just drill dash. To keep it. Get our weapons back. And if I switch to the drill and drill dash
just
out,
to the right here, where the pipe is, which it's kind of hard to see. If you drill dash into the right way, it launches you up and over the wall, which it's way slower, but you don't use like an extra 2 drill dashes, so you get to keep those, and it just looks cool.
Instead of walking all the way over.
It can also get you soft locked out of the map though, which is really bad.
Eleanor is my answer. Do you think me a tyrant, Delta? Vying for
So far the run's pretty
dead man?
pretty much what it is today.
So Dionysus Park was kind of an iffy stage before, because it actually had an almost guaranteed crash at the very end. But with a new strat that has been found since my record run like a week or so ago, we actually skipped that crash entirely.
Dionysus Park was owned by Sophia.
I don't remember what caused the crash, but you were almost like guaranteed. I think it was like doing individual diary skips at the end, because we didn't have a good spot to do the all-in-one diary skips, and like saving at the end of Dionysus Park or loading at the end of Dionysus Park has always made the game crash. So then we start doing an all-in-one diary here, and that prevents that from happening.
Sort of a private retreat for her social experiments. One night it flooded, killing all her guests.
So we need to kill this splicer to
Papers
move
said
on.
it was cult-related.
And this is Houdini Splicer that will teleport away if you let him. So setting him on fire and then hitting him with the machine gun keeps.
You can skip that fight. There is a way to like jump up ahead of time, but much like the stuff before, if you don't kill that splicer, then one of the doors later on is locked and you can't get past it. So you just can't skip the area.
In there?
I mean, it's quick enough where it's not worth skipping, but
Infiltrated Dionysus Park. His death is our rebirth. The life of the people's daughter is in your hands.
So we're gonna buy more drill fuel. So why not? Gotta stock up. So what we're gonna do is activate this door. We're gonna set up. We're gonna do a diary skip here.
The point of backing up here is just for timing the diary skip, by the way. It's so that ideally, as you're walking through the door, that's when the diary is going to start. It's just timed based off of once the door is active, the door opens, and then a couple seconds later, you get the message. So you just back up far enough to kind of visualize when the diary is going to happen instead of just randomly guessing.
Oh, you got special problems, huh?
This is the idea behind it. Like, as you're going through the doorway, that's when you play your message.
Little too late.
But it's also based off of when you save. So.
Some of the messages have a little bit of delay before they actually start playing, so it makes you think you get them if you try to go too fast when you actually don't.
Yeah, this message is playing really early.
Alright, there we go.
Is it alright if I read a couple donations real quick?
Maybe just one.
Okay. We have a $10 donation from Decided Sloth saying, "What's up, Scrub Thunder? Sloth here. I'm pretty disappointed I can't be there for your run, but we'll be sure to catch up Thursday. Remember not to sloth it."
I just realized that's also the first donation that they read there. Interesting, because there was way more time in this run for it. And the one donating, Decided Sloth, was a Dishonored runner back in the day. If people were around way back then, he was the Dishonored runner to him and Fearful Ferret.
Alright, so we're gonna pick up a really useful weapon.
I got called Scrub Thunder a lot back in the day. When
grenade
Scrub was
launcher.
more of a common word.
It's not gonna be useful here.
Maybe just
But
one.
once we get into the end game, it becomes the most useful weapon you could imagine. So we're gonna activate this goal. And we're gonna come over here and do a death warp.
Okay, we had the death warp here.
Hopefully these splicers.
I'm actually surprised at how much tech was in the run
guns,
back then.
a really fun quest.
People still say Scrub, but it's not as prevalent as it was in like 2014.
So our mission here is to interact with 3 little sisters, meaning either save or harvest them. In order to do that, I need to take out the big...
I'm just going to keep cutting myself off here. This is one level where theoretically you can skip it. You don't need to interact with these little sisters. The lever on the train is interactable. You'd have to find a way to clip into the train, though, is the only thing stopping it. But this is one section where that's not, you know, you're not hard locked out of it until you complete the quest line.
Daddy. The one left here will die in one hit. He actually doesn't have a little sister. If you manage to save him from the splicers, you can actually get him to draw a little sister out of hiding. The one unfortunate thing is I ran out of Eve.
Eve is a very big problem in Dionysus Park. Usually you buy Eve nowadays in Siren's Alley, and you buy some more later on in Dionysus Park, but yeah, this is still an issue in the current route, obviously, because not a whole lot's different, but Eve is the biggest concern, because you just use so many plasmids for combat.
But luckily there's some armor-piercing rounds right here.
Out of the 3 main games, BioShock 1's the most fun to run. The least amount of downtime.
So at this point, you might ask yourself, is he harvesting the little sister to save time, or is it for more Adam like I need it in Ryan's amusement? This one's actually for speed. Although the saving animation is faster, you have to take them to an air vent to make that actually happen.
There's 3 sisters here. The first one, I believe you still need to harvest because you buy stuff from the thing right away, and I think you need all the extra Adam from it. Yeah, I think I'll just explain it here in a second. The save animation is technically faster than the harvest animation, but you can only do the save animation if you pick them up and take them to an air vent, which ends up meaning you're adding more time to the animation, therefore it's going to be slower. So just harvesting is always the way to go, unless you happen to accidentally pick them up, in which case you have to take them to the air vent either way, and then the save animation is going to be faster.
So unless they're on the way, it's faster to harvest. So because we did the dire skip before, Eleanor's not actually speaking, which makes this cutscene a little awkward.
There's a interesting thing you can do with these Eleanor cutscenes, which I don't know if there's ever a proper ruling on it, but I think it was just like unwritten rule that you're not allowed to do it. If you Alt-Tab, the game like pauses, it loses focus, but it's still like running the cutscene. So whenever you tab back in, it speeds up the finish really, really quickly. It's like in-game time, you technically are like paused. But in real time, you know, it's the same amount, but the game speeds up the match. If that makes any sort of sense. You have to submit every time. Nobody gets invited for a GDQ run.
I wonder what's going on.
Anyone who's ever been on a GDQ run, or
we're
had a GDQ run, has submitted it.
We're gonna buy
to my knowledge.
Really cool Plasmid Scout.
Winter Blast
2. Although we haven't used Winter Blast all that much, it's gonna be.
No, a lot of at this time in-game timers just like weren't a thing. Just everyone used RTA. I don't know when like the big convergence over happened. I don't know when those really start to take off, but pretty much everything at this point was RTA.
Become important just a little bit. For now, we still need electrical. So here I'm going to buy drill fuel, but I'm also going to buy Eve, because if you may notice,
I think like if it was really close in terms of records, you would go back and take out the load screens in post, like open it up in a video editor, and then, you know, like count the frames and stuff. I remember doing that back in the day for BioShock 1. At some point, I remember doing that and seeing like exactly what the difference was. But like actually using a live split in-game timer was much later. There weren't a whole lot of people that knew how to make them. And if they did, there was more popular games. The thing is, more popular games at this point in time were console games, which just don't use in-game timers because the fact that they're on console and not PC.
Alright, so I actually am going to save this little sister, because it's like...
I'm trying to remember the first time I used like an in-game timer for something.
This allows us to choose whether we get the good or bad ending.
I don't remember what it was. No idea. It's probably BioShock at some point.
Right along the way. Normally I would drill dash here, but that splicer spawned, so I would just hit him. So once again, we get a nice little cutscene.
More exposition.
This part actually explains how Eleanor became your little sister. And they try to make Stanley out like a bad guy, but in reality, he's the one that brought you two together, so...
So you're saying he's an anti-hero?
Is he?
Good question.
The world may never know. So we're going to just buy a little bit more drill fuel. Anytime we can stock up, it's better to do so. That's two of the little sisters that we need to grab. Last one is over here. First, we're going to open up this. Because it's a very slow-moving gate, so it's better to open it.
Anytime you see that happen, me just swinging, that's me trying to do a drill dash and just failing mechanically to do it.
It's a very slow-moving gate, so it's better to open it early and get it on the way back. And finally, this little sister we're going to harvest once again, just because it's faster.
That splicer just now really wanted some pain.
I think I tried to drill dash there, maybe? Like an idiot? Maybe not. You never want to drill dash into these cutscenes.
Gonna flood the place, which leads to Dionysus Park being what it is.
You just don't get
what a jerk.
full use out of it.
Alright, so we're pretty much done with Stanley at this point. Just need to head back to the train station.
For the most part, the drill dash is on point. I'm really curious how this is a 121. Gotta be stuff later on.
Typically, there's a diary message right before you get on the train. And in the old method before the diary script that we have now, you'd have to manually skip it, which would lead to a crash in like every third run. So now that we do the diary script, that's not an issue. Unfortunately, we still did crash earlier.
Oh well.
Now for Fontaine Futuristics, probably one of my favorite stages. There's actually two halves to it. The first half is pretty tricky. The second half is all about fighting. So we'll see how it goes.
If I'm right,
And the second half gets entirely skipped now.
Adam to force all Rapture's minds and memories into the
So we're gonna pick up one last tonic, which any research we've done, like getting more damage against one enemy, that's amplified, so does a little bit more
And to
damage.
keep you alive, we need to sneak in and
There's actually a nifty trick you can do here to keep your drill out, so you can drill dash.
October 9th.
Unfortunately, it messes up the setup for the next diary skip. So.
My name.
So I talked about earlier, like doing diaries at the beginning of a stage because we just always know when they're going to happen. You can't really do that with this one at all. I mean, you can, but it's way worse. So to do it consistently, where we do the diary skip, if you're speedrunning through here and you're drill dashing, then the audio messages stack up and you can't really do the skip effectively because it's going to get delayed, and then you just have to randomly guess when the message is going to end. So instead of actually running through here as fast as we possibly can, we just kind of walk around and see. Even sometimes if I walk too fast, I'll sit right by the lever for the next part until he says last ditch, and then that's a good time, ideally, to kind of set things up.
Alexander. And by the time you hear this, I will be clinically.
It's actually like playing slower so that you can go faster in the end.
Do the tonic as well as the research you gained from the Spider Splicer still?
Yeah, so you want to hit that essentially right when he says around last ditch, and you're good to go. At least that's the way I do it. I think some people have different setups for this. But
No, I don't think so.
It doesn't?
My next message awaits you beyond the security checkpoint. The bioscan will ensure.
So I'm going to do a quick save right after this message pops up. I'm actually going to do another quick save once I enter the room, and that's just the setup I have for it. I don't know why.
Yeah, this is like, you can do this in one, but it's more of just setting up that visual cue for consistency's sake. All right, this is your average timing. If you do a save here and then walk forward, save again, when you walk halfway up the stairs, you're going to be good to go. Is kind of just the setup for things.
I just find it easier with 2 quick saves than 1.
And having a second save shortens the time per attempt.
A little too soon.
If you save too close to the message will play. Once you load in, there's a certain time before you can play your diary message. And if the radio message plays within that window, you just physically can't skip it, and then therefore you can't do the diary skip. And the only way it is like the load an autosave or a previous save and try again. So you want to have some space, but you want to have enough space between the load and the radio message to get in your diary at the same time. It's really complicated. Try to get it like frame perfect. This has always just been the hardest.
This is probably the most important diary skip to get because it actually works for both halves of Fontaine Futuristics. So it extends over a long period of time, so
nice job.
Finally got it.
The most important one because it skips the most dialogue, and it's the hardest one to do because it's in such a weird spot. And based on how you walk through there and time the message, it's going to be varied every single time.
Typically, I would actually buy stuff here first and then do the fight. But I found that doing it, the fight first and then getting stuff is actually better. We're going to put down some trap rivets. They're fun.
Great commentary there.
And this is kind of where Winter Blast is going to take over as the main plasmid of choice.
I'm really surprised they let me commentate so much. Like, not comment, like, they didn't interrupt with donations or ask for more donations here and there. He asked for the one. He could fit it in. But there's a lot of downtime in here, and if I ran BioShock 2 again, I would definitely give them, like, hey, this is a good time for donations. Like, there's a lot of times when you're spending just in fights or traveling from one area to the next where you could fill time, and I could definitely do it, but I don't know. There also, I mean, there is definitely way less donations. We checked it earlier, but this GDQ, based on the description, raised $710,000 as opposed to the 2.5 to 3 million that they raised now. So there's on average less donations, but yeah, maybe they didn't have any like urgent ones to read. But there is still, much like BioShock 1, and I don't remember if we watched Quantum Conundrum or not. I think I did, from HGQ 2014. But there is a lot of radio silence. There's not a lot of commentary going on, backup couch, which I don't really ever expect my couch to heavily commentate unless it's a very popular run, which I haven't really done any of those. And there's nothing really happening in the game besides the fighting. Could definitely fit in a donation in there.
We actually gave up a plasmid earlier that we're going to get back, and that's telekinesis, because we need it for a certain skip. We're actually going to get rid of Electrobolt, which is one of the main plasmids.
I probably said this for BioShock 1 and like the previous runs I watched, but I'm remembering these runs way worse. Because I've just never really been comfortable with like watching myself back in terms of runs or just in anything really. You know, the sound of my own voice, just like looking at me is painful. Seeing me 7 years ago. But my commentary is actually a lot better than I've given it credit for over the years. Like I can explain things better. I could explain them more in depth. I could just talk about actual stuff and just kind of giving non-answers for half the questions asked, but it's still better than what I thought, so that's cool to see at least.
Like I said, Winter Blast takes over from this point, so I need to start setting up for probably the hardest Alpha Daddy.
The moral of the story is have more confidence in yourself.
Fight in the game.
All right. Take anything away from the stream, it's that.
You might think I'm being sarcastic. That's not sarcasm in the slightest. This will probably be the hardest Big Daddy fight in the game. So this bot can actually set off those proxy mines. If I stand on that floor down there, they'll be too close.
You can actually skip this message as well, just playing a diary over top of it. It for a long time was thought it was just a hard-coded message, kind of like some of the ones before. And you just had to let it play out. There's no way to skip it. But even if you do an all-in-one diary, if you play the diary again over Alex's message, then it gets skipped, which is cool. It's like adding to it. Whoop. Whoop.
If I stand up here.
Nice job. Never gets old.
And like I said, that's the hardest Alpha Daddy fight in the game, so you can just imagine what the rest are like.
I couldn't tell.
How long would it take without the setup?
Without using the proxy mines, it just depends on what you want to use. The proxy mines won't ever kill him because he can't die until he like, fully spawns in, which is why I need to hit him with something else.
I don't think that's true. I think that was proven wrong. I think you can kill him if you put down like trap rivets as well, maybe. I might be wrong in saying that it's wrong. I don't remember. I don't think that's correct.
I just used the machine gun. All the stuff I just picked up I probably won't need, but old habits die hard.
I think this is another spot, even if you can clip into this room, you can't use the switch inside until you've done the previous quest line. Because once you get in there, you have to wait for it anyways. So like, even if you could clip through the map or do something crazy, like just, there'd be no use for it.
Alright. So in this part, we're supposed to take out 4 signal relays. The first 3 are really easy. The 4th one's actually hidden behind a wave of fights.
I want to see my computer skip.
Little surprise for that. It's probably really the only skip that is iffy in a run. Dire skips are inconsistent, but they're not too bad. We'll see what happens when we get there. We're gonna head upstairs first, pick up some proxy mines. You may notice a little timer on the left. That's setting off a security alarm. The security alarm in this stage actually goes off by default. You can't actually control it. So.
Audio balancing is great. You can definitely tell what you're saying.
Luckily, the bots never catch up to us. We're just too fast.
Death warp here. Yeah, not a lot has changed in terms of strats in the past 7 years.
The first 3 relays, we can go for the 4th. So we're gonna bring this sign with us and just throw it down the stairs. We actually need that sign to be knocked over. Next, we need the turret. And the turret's really the key to this whole thing.
Started building. Oh, we got.
Well, that's a problem.
Yeah, and they probably
sometimes even through a death warp, splicers and big.
That's really unfortunate because it's not even just the splicers, which is usually the problem. The splicers track onto you. The Alpha Daddy came down as well, which just is going to completely wreck your setup entirely and just take forever. And you can't. I mean, the setup's already wrecked, but you saw, like, for a brief second, I pulled out the grenade launcher when he showed up.
Well, that's a problem.
That was a brief moment of, like, this would kill him, being in Winter Blast and then shoot a grenade, but it would, if the sign and the turret weren't messed up yet, shooting a grenade here would absolutely wreck it, just, like, guaranteed. And you can't see it on the right, so it's like, maybe it survived. Maybe I'm hopeful in thinking that. Let me switch to something a little safer.
Sometimes even through a death warp, splicers and big baddies will still. Usually, if you just pop down a decoy upstairs, which I don't think I did. Let's see. When you're running past this guy, if you pop a decoy in here, that usually prevents it. The security alarm. Yeah, if you prop a decoy in front of that guy, right there. He's the one that runs down the stairs. First, bring this sign with her. Next, we need the turret. Well, that's a problem. Sometimes even through a death warp, splicers and big baddies will still find you, so. Typically when you die, all their tracking gets lost. Actually, the stuff is in place. Okay. So now we need our last sign. Luckily they didn't knock over. I can't believe that stuff is still there. Like I said, we actually need this one to be on its side, so kind of toss it around.
That's incredible. That's not knocked over.
If everything went right, we can just jump on top of these. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
Now we need to set up. There we go.
Nice shot.
And while I'm waiting, I'm just gonna hack that.
It's really not worth hacking this. I mean, you can. I also failed the hack, which is great. Jesus Christ for?
That. There we go.
Nice.
Oh, me saying it now? Forgetting this so cleanly.
Everything went right.
Like,
We can just jump on top of it.
signs of not getting knocked over, just getting this first try. Wow.
Now we
Like,
need to set up.
any hesitation?
Nice shot.
It's
That.
like theater skip is the scariest and most soul-crushing skip in BioShock 2. Yeah. Not even how quickly it was, just how clean.
Launcher clip size.
Failed to hack, yeah. We still buy drill fuel from this anyways, and runs
So I wasn't
now,
actually
we just
supposed
don't
to
hack
fail
it.
that hack. I just got unlucky. So I mentioned before about a nice trick to keep your drill. So if we just use Scout, which makes our...
Oh, yeah, I used decoy here.
Okay.
Did I?
Makes our character come out of his own body. Use Scout, which makes our a nice
I thought I used,
trick to keep
okay.
your drill.
I thought I used decoy.
So if we just use Scout,
Don't mind
which
me.
makes our character come out of his own body. Yeah, gotta keep her. Okay.
Good game.
So now we're gonna go into the second half, which is a little bit more fun, in my opinion.
Pretty much all of this area gets skipped nowadays. Like the very beginning fight, you go from the beginning to the end of this area.
First, we need to turn on the lights. There we go. Because I'm afraid of the dark.
Oh, yeah. So this was before, you can see it in the bottom right of the game feed. Like the Steam overlay stuff, this is when it was kind of more of a prevalent thing because it just, smaller events didn't really know of it happening. And I think what happened actually is I had it turned off to begin with, but whenever the game crashed, it like switched some setting. So the Steam overlay started popping up again. And that happens here. So I think it happened at SGDQ. And then, like, going forward, they're like, all right, make sure you kind of turn it off and do the check. Anytime you do a run at a GDQ now, especially if you do a PC run, they'll make sure that you go through and turn off Steam Overlay or you're not on French chat. So if people want to send these troll messages, troll invites, they don't show up anymore.
We hack that for later. We have free time here.
But the key is if it happens, you just don't acknowledge it. You don't freak out. You don't make a big deal. If you know how to fix it quickly, you do it. If not, you just ignore it. Because if I sat there and was like, I pointed out like, oh, why am I getting Steam notifications? Guess what would happen in the next 2 minutes? You'd get 50 more Steam notifications. I think I end up getting some more.
So at this
too.
point, we buy Winter Blast 3.
Boom, bam.
Final upgrade.
Get him out of here.
You want to be top man? You want to sit in the big chair? Well, come and take it.
Yeah, sometimes you'll do a GDQ run, and then, like, it'll be turned off and you don't have notifications. But you, like, log into your Steam account later on, you're like, oh, I have 3 invites. Cool. Good shot.
So, as you can probably tell at this point, we're setting another death warp. Only this time I don't have Incinerate, so I need to find another way to actually kill myself here.
2 failed drill dashes.
The reason I walked around the outside of the room instead of just straight through it is because there's another Vita chamber in that area that you don't want to activate. And just simply walking around the outside prevents that.
No, it's not like big booty stuff. It's more like racist and homophobic slurs. Is what you're gonna get.
A little cutscene from Eleanor. But...
Oh hey, more broken dialogue.
So are these cutscenes actually faster with the diary skip, or do they just become silent?
They just become silent.
It's not even like friend notifications popping up. I mean, that could happen, but it's more so people that have like, they invite you to groups that are racist or homophobic or whatever in the title, and then that message will pop up on stream like, hey, you've got an invite from X group. And it's like, well, awesome. Cool.
Stopping you from moving on, the message and the actual cutscene playing out. And we can skip dialogue, but we can't skip the cutscene. So that's why it's silent. They're gonna open up both doors.
Yeah, another one. So at this point, it's like, oh, somebody did it, and now people see, and it's like, oh, well, now we can all do it. It's free reign. I don't know if it gets stopped in this run or not, or if it keeps happening. I don't really remember it being like a prominent thing. The thing is, like, even when it popped up at the 720p, watching it now, it's like I can't even read what it says. I see that it's there, but I have no idea what it says.
I could use another grenade here to make it a little faster, but there's no point in...
Yeah, more recent events, it's become just like you just get flooded with friend requests, even if it's not like a TOS breaking username or whatever. It's just like, oh, hey, this person's on Steam. Let me get my name on screen by sending a friend request, and just, memes.
Wasting them. Because I will actually need grenades for this fight.
It's less about sending a message and just spamming instead.
How long have you been running BioShock 2?
I've been running BioShock 2 for probably close to a year or so, but I didn't seriously pick it up until after SGDQ.
So I think like right around the time Infinite was coming out, I switched over to running BioShock 2. It was like within the same couple of months. I didn't even play Infinite until months after it came out. So I was like, well, I could play Infinite, but I could also just like work on speedrunning BioShock 2 and just focusing on that instead, and I'll get to Infinite eventually, which is kind of weird to think about nowadays. Like a new game comes out in the series, I'm gonna play it.
The container,
day one.
Which contains all of his loot, but
yeah, Laz does he's a pretty good job of asking questions.
He goes flying off.
Especially for parts where I'm not talking, like this part where I'm just doing combat and it's pretty trivial stuff. Like having a simple question like give more insight on either the run or the runner themselves is nice. Anytime I'm on a couch, which is pretty rare, like asking a question of like, why did you decide to pick this up? Why, why this category? How long, how did you get into it? Stuff like that is just a really easy way for people to talk about something for a little bit without having to think too much. Because most people know why they picked up a run, or they like a game, or something like that. It's just an easy topic they don't have to think about the answer for.
There's one. The reason I want those is for the money. Well, we don't need a whole lot. We still need some.
If you're like trying to run a game and you're trying to actively think about what's happening in the moment, and someone asks you a question that you really have to think about, it's like your mind just kind of melts for a second. You're just like, maybe, and then either you mess up the run or you don't end up answering the question the way you should. Something like that.
Some splicers love the roaming Big Daddy in this area. now he's gonna be mad at us. That's a fight. Nothing too impressive. He's still mad at us.
It's not even like pre-beanie, because I had beanie well before then. I just didn't wear it for this, which is very rare BT for sure. But the same beanie I'm wearing, I've had this for like 8 or 9 years now, which is insane.
Class does not hold him for very long, so.
Yeah, it was Wolfenstein. Wolfenstein the Old Blood. The Barrel of Magic. I think it was more than 5 minutes. It was like a 10-minute ordeal. Watch it at some point, but... yeah, I don't really care that Ken's not going to be a part of it. To be honest with you.
You may be wondering why I don't use the scout.
Like, I'm honestly, I'm more excited that he's not a part of it going forward. Like, if he was like an executive producer, kind of like over everything, kind of helping out a little bit with the story and keeping things in line, but like in terms of gameplay, 2, which he was not a part of, has the best gameplay by far. Infinite, which was his latest project, had the worst gameplay by far. And in the stories that have come out from Infinite's development on like changing his mind and a whole lot of other stuff, like it's probably for the best.
Key my drill again. There's just no reason.
Channel no longer exists. Whoa.
Want to be effective.
This was back before. Before I got partnered, this was my username. Zeros instead of O's and the underscore. And then, like, right as I got partnered, I was like, all right, change this. I sent him an email. I was like, change this. This is like the whole reason I want to be partnered, is so I can get my username changed. And then, like 1 or 2 more events after I got partnered, they still use this same link. Because the Twitch link for a long time was just tied to your GDQ account. And you couldn't update it. So I eventually just made a new GDQ account and started submitting through that instead, which they grabbed my right URL.
Seems like a very short distance.
Not a bad Fontaine Future 6.2. Something we haven't done in this run, which I've noticed, I noticed it in Atlantic Express and now here, is we're not picking up more subsequent diary messages, which really don't matter too much, but it always has seemed easier to get diary skips when you have a more recent diary for whatever reason. Like, the same diary makes it harder if you just keep using the same one over and over. If you get a new one, it seems to work better. So we just, like, anytime we watch a BioShock 2 run, you're just constantly picking up new diary messages along the way. Don't know if that's true or not, but...
What is your PB for this game, by the way?
My personal best and current record is 1:16:32, but since my record, we found about 1.5 minutes worth of time savers and some optimizations, so...
What's a good guess that you...
I think my PB nowadays is like a 1:13. This is also real time instead of end game time, so it's a little bit different. But man, 1:16, that's crazy.
I'd say this time can go as low as possible, assuming tricks aren't found for it in the future.
If you manage to actually get first try diary skips for everything, you can get like a 1:12.
We're finally
1:12.
But
Find Eleanor,
getting
son,
first
and
try diary
fast.
skips is
Our
not a
monarch's
pleasant
done all
thing.
rapture,
Wasn't this
dying
game
to
at
keep you
1.2
two
hours?
apart.
Before I picked up the game, the current, like, the best on YouTube I could find was like a 2:12.
Oof.
Wow.
So whenever I picked this game up, it was pretty much just segmented runners, much like BioShock 1. Anything that was like a single segment run was just someone kind of uploading their casual playthrough. Like maybe they'd played it a couple times. Besides that, the current record for any percent, by the way, is a 107. In-game time, real time 109. Just for sake of comparison. In 7 years, it's dropped 7 minutes. Dropped a minute per year. It's not bad for a speedrun.
That wasn't really an actual speedrun.
Let's play.
Yeah. Pretty much. So now we're just gonna drill dash through all of this.
Father, come quickly. I'm trapped in a cage.
So if you don't want spoilers for this game, you probably want to turn away now because we actually have to sit through some and we can't skip them.
Have you any idea what my daughter?
So these tables that are flying around can actually throw me into a wall.
I envy
Keep me
you.
stunned for a bit.
Yeah, okay.
You still believe.
For a long time, a part of the run was dealing with the double big sister fight here. I was wondering if, I mean, the only reason you really buy Scout, the only reason we started buying Scout is for this trick to work.
Any magic tables, right?
So like, once we bought that, it's kind of confirmed, but I just wasn't sure.
You can actually do a similar sort of thing, but something you may not know is you can actually skip this fight here, which is typically 2 big sisters. By using Scout, you clip far enough into the room that you hit the trigger for this cutscene, and you're still going to hear Sinclair say you need to like, activate the lever.
Use the controls to break the quarantine seal.
That's because he still thinks I haven't activated and fought him, but I'm already past that part. He comes in really late here.
Wonder what this is. Must be plot.
And she has been watching you ever since, exalting your every act as gospel.
What are you waiting for, kid?
Yeah, there's Sinclair.
The girl lying on that bed is no longer my child, nor my life's
The plot.
She is a monster, shaped by you alone.
Yo, no problems. No, enjoy it.
Just as she
What are you waiting for, kid?
20 seconds remaining.
Yeah,
But
it's
there is one
complete silence. Like
Also,
even
the bear in the corner is just seeing too much.
Your
Communist Teddy.
was designed
even though there's like plot stuff,
when
like
her heart ceases
could very easily read donations over top of this. There's
Eleanor,
nothing going on. Or I could, what I would usually do now is if there's not donations, I would just explain what's happening in the story.
Yeah, it's done.
Why we're here,
We're done.
what this means, stuff like that.
That must be the bad ending.
his body is shutting down now, naturally. But if
There's kind of a fun fact about this part that really doesn't make any sense whatsoever. When I gain back my vision here, I'll be facing towards the wall. After we go through the next section, I'll actually be back in this area facing the opposite way. But our character can't actually move as he's restrained to a table, so
It's
somebody
me,
came in the room, turned him
Eleanor.
180 and left.
I'm so sorry. Mother stopped my heart long enough to sever our bond. Staying near me won't stop you from dying now. Or worse. But I can still help you escape. This little sister's brought you something that will allow you to take control of her.
So I think everyone that plays this game can pretty much agree this is like the best part of BioShock 2. So now we get to play as a little sister. She's not actually as much fun as you would think. She can't jump, she can't sprint, she can't crouch, she can't do a whole lot of things.
I know this feels a bit
So
strange,
bad for
Father,
speedrunning.
but now you can see through her eyes and tell her where to go.
Also, this is the
is
part
how
where
I brought
Eleanor
you
just
back
loves
without
to
Mother
talk.
catching on. Now, first, let's get you out of here.
This whole section,
Skip here that saves like almost no time at all.
this whole the whole little sister section, it could just be donations. Honestly, you're just running through collecting stuff. That's all there is, and it's just like a couple of minutes of it.
But you get the benefit of not having to listen to Eleanor talk, so
Inside Mother's
it's almost
office,
worth going
there's a
for.
way to unlock these chambers she's holding us in. Find a way to slip in there.
I guess they just weren't as proactive about asking read comment or
Now we're
read
done climbing the
donations.
fence, we can actually kind of run.
You're in. There should be a
surprising.
lever in here somewhere. Pull it, and it will unlock the cells.
No comments.
He will attempt to reach
So you may notice all these little dolls laying around the area.
Very
The bears.
I would do
We'll
this
see some
myself.
Big Daddy dolls
To save your
and some
life,
sharks.
I'm going to have to
There's actually a
change
really sad
to
truth
be like you.
involving the dolls.
From here,
I'll
you
point
should
out.
be able to locate the pieces
So
of a
there's a
big
Big Daddy doll
suit.
with his drill and everything.
Please, bring them to me. There's a piece of the suit in here, Father. Find the rest and bring them back to me.
This area has a lot of edges to get stuck on, so you kind of have to be careful.
10
There's some
years,
sharks.
Father. Stuck in this fever dream. Mother kept me sedated in order to perfect my mind with Adam. To her, the ideal child is a genius, serving the common good.
Alright, when I go to get this next
questioning
piece of
it.
armor, just
You
pay
have
attention to this
saved me
corner.
from that.
I mean, just the camera's desynced overall. If you look at like my mouth moving and the words coming out, it's just desynced altogether.
You're gonna notice that there's a Big Daddy doll over in that corner. Now that we're back in Rapture, it's just a pile of rocks.
In part. As they
Every
were
doll
up
you
in
see is just a
Rapture,
pile of
I
rocks.
feel it all. When you were with the little ones, they trusted you as their father because of me.
So now we're done collecting everything. We can just go
Mother
back to
was
Eleanor.
right about one thing. I have been watching you, Father, studying the way you have treated others, and now I know who I am. I survive, no matter the cost, just as you have.
This is also like the point in time where every GDQ had a different setup in terms of audio and mics and like cameras and the capture cards and everything. So there's just like tech issues all over the place because it's teaching people who are just volunteers showing up like, hey, I'm here to help out, tech that is brand new for the setup and all this stuff. So it's people that really don't know what they're doing fully, working with new equipment. There's always some sort of tech issue related to that.
So this, what I'm about to do, is perfectly natural. That is much better. Ready now.
So, like I mentioned before, after we come back to our character, we're actually facing away from the wall.
These suits always did remind me of you,
But
Father.
for now, we're going to get a really cool
The skin
plasmid
of a
that
born
we're
survivor.
only going to use once.
And now I'm ready to fight at your side.
Because Eleanor
Mother
actually kind of
doesn't
gets in the way
stand a
later on.
Take this plasmid. You can use it to call me to your side in a fight.
So what we need Eleanor to do here is actually go after the two splicers. Because I need to take out the two groups.
A fun fact about the Eleanor plasmid is it will just use up whatever Eve you have left in your current bar. It doesn't take a certain percentage. It just whatever you have left of your current Eve bar, it'll just take all of that. So if you want to like really optimize your Eve count for whatever reason, you would get it as low as possible using other plasmids and other means before you use Eleanor, so that it effectively costs the least amount to use. Never useful for like any real situation, but I guess if you're playing on harder difficulties and you're doing something challenging, there you go.
And she did not do her job.
Subject Delta, I know you can hear me.
So I've been mentioning a lot
have
about
stolen my
the more
life's
consistent type dire skips, and we're actually going to do
my
one
only
here. It's pretty much the only one left
Rapture
in the game.
is the house of monsters. The surface will not have us. And now,
So in order to do it, I need to wait for the message to pop up which is going to be Eleanor's next message after this. Once that happens, I'm going to quick save, quick load, and then play a diary over top of it.
Oh God, she's going to drop this building into the trench.
Persephone, secret home of Sinclair Solutions. I bet against Andy Ryan's vision of harmony and rapture.
Alright, I feel like we don't have the quick strats for the end, for the final level.
So this diary skip is actually kind of weird because it's based on movement and not in time, which makes it a little bit easier to get, but it's still a diary skip.
This diary skip should theoretically be the most consistent to get because it's going to be the same every time. It's based on when you move. So the timing is always the same, but it ends up being the hardest for whatever reason. It's like the tightest timing in the end. Not a single first try. Damn. Hate to see it. It's another spot where like the loading in and the message playing becomes a problem, because if you load in and you're holding forward, you activate the message before you have a chance to play your diary. So you have to like wait for a brief moment of time before you walk forward and activate it so you can play your message.
You seem really frustrating.
She really wants her dialogue.
Yep.
She needs her limelight. Last chance, kid.
There we go.
Nice.
Now we're done with that part, we can actually get to speedrunning again. I'm gonna try to hit this target, and I actually missed. Good job. I need to hack this vending machine because I'm gonna use it multiple times. I don't want to pay for the extra fuel.
So if you hack a vending machine, things get cheaper. And because you're kind of limited on the amount of money that you get from the whole area, and you need a lot of fuel, hacking it makes it cheaper. And if you have an auto-hack dart, you can do it right away when you're waiting. And it's pretty much just free money, free time save.
If I need it, ammo. I actually don't need a whole lot of ammo. I need just enough to get by.
So I don't think we have the fast fight strats. I think they were found much
If you drill dash
later.
right as you open the door, you actually get stuck in that little red ring. But if you back up from the door and then drill dash into it, you actually slide further. It's a pretty nifty thing. So here's Sinclair, the guy that's been leading us. He's kind of like a boss, but unlike Simon Wells, who we fought earlier, he actually doesn't get any additional health. So he's just a typical alpha daddy. You can probably figure out what that means for him.
Just waiting.
So although we skipped the dialogue here, we still have to wait. It's on.
What are the odds that there's not a single donation read from this point to the end of the game? We just had that one early on from Decided Sloth.
Timer.
I have a feeling that's going to be the case.
There we go.
Unless in the final fight it pops up.
Houdini splicers are just the worst for drill dashing, because the second you drill dash, they can appear randomly.
Because this game was really based on consoles first, your drill dash has sort of like an aim assist to it. It kind of locks on to splicers. So if Houdini Splicer's trying to spawn in, technically it's already in the map in a certain spot. It just hasn't like fully appeared. So you can really just lock onto them really, really early before you even know they're there and just drill dash straight into them, which is just terrible.
So we're going to take a little detour and get some fuel. Typically there's some money there as well, but that's okay.
Yeah, that room can spawn a whole bunch of stuff. You're only looking for drill fuel and money because those are obviously very important drill fuel for moving around, drill dashing, and money so that you can buy more drill fuel. For some reason, it's not consistent.
Oh, there you go.
Ending security curfew. Sealing security office temporarily.
You can actually do a death warp and get out of here a little quicker, but we kind of need the supplies, so instead of saving the extra second, I just gear up. Unfortunately, there is no death warp back. This area is very well protected in that term. By the time that you can actually death warp back, it's just faster to walk.
Those big daddies were not having it.
Yeah, that alarm meant nothing because there's a way to turn it off right there.
I mean, it means nothing regardless. I guess you can pay to turn it off. That's the thing.
Alright, so that's part 1 of this section. There's 3 parts to it. I need to make sure I have 2 heat-seeking rockets here. 2 of the enemies.
2 rockets?
This is actually a relatively new strat. Pretty consistent.
This is not a sermon.
Rockets.
I will offer no insight.
I know we use 1 rocket for the first guy.
You already know.
But use a rocket.
On top of this bed. And,
you have the fast strat then. I don't use the heat-seeking rocket here? Oh. Oh,
that's good.
Okay, well we half knew about the strats. You skipped this entire thing now. So we didn't know about skipping it, obviously, by just looking at their spawn points. But we knew where they spawn, so you just get up here to kill them much quicker. Yeah, it's for the brute and then the, I think, other alpha daddy that spawns. I guess rockets are the best way to deal with that. Music's too loud, oh my god.
These fights actually get quicker and quicker, so the next one's going to be even faster if done right. Drill up one last time. So there is no, like, boss at the end of this game. There's just, like, a wave of enemies after we get through this part, of course. But it's a little disappointing, as you'll see. So I want to slide far enough here to get to this corpse. Saves a few seconds.
My commentary is like almost there. There's like snippets of like decent commentary, but then it's like falls flat. Like I talked about, oh, there's there's a wave at the end, which I don't really need to bring up until I get there. I'm just like, they'll just be disappointing, and I don't elaborate any further there. I just mentioned like sliding, but I don't mention why the sliding is important because you get stuck in place during that part.
Wake up! Why don't you wake up?
So this alpha daddy here doesn't actually care about us, so we can just go around him.
I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. My commentary is a lot better than I have ever given it credit for at these early runs. That's because I don't like the sound of my own voice a lot of times, and I don't like looking at myself from years past. I definitely think I would do a better job on commentary now, obviously 7 years later, but he's doing his best, you know? Really my second time in front of like a big audience like that, commentating a game, and having to deal with the pressure of it and everything. It's not bad. It's pretty good. I'd give it a solid B. B plus, maybe.
I need to make sure he dies so he doesn't mess up what we're about to do.
Yeah, my spaghetti didn't fall in my pockets. Definitely. You know, all that good stuff. Also, I've been trying to pay attention to it in the corner, but like there's been, once that first Steam notification went through, there's like 3 other instances of it. And once again, if you just don't pay attention to it, you don't draw attention, a lot of times you can just avoid stuff like that because the casual audience may not see it. Like they might see a little pop up and then because it's gone, they just don't care. But whatever you're pointing out in your commentary is what people are going to pay attention to because it's what you're talking about. If you don't, if you make a mistake during a run, which is, you know, bound to happen, it's like a 5-second time loss. If you just don't mention it at all, literally nobody will know. Nobody will know you made a mistake unless it's blaringly obvious and you like have to reload a save or something like that. But if you just keep talking about what's happening with the run or literally anything else, like it'll just seem like, oh, he's just playing the game, he's just doing the run. But if you're constantly like harping on like the little things that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things to most people watching, because it's a much more casual audience for a GDQ run, and people that probably haven't played the game, or if they have played the game, may not recognize what you're doing or have any idea about what speedrunning is. If you spend the whole run being like, oh, well, I failed this trick, oh, that was kind of sloppy, blah, 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 all people are going to take away from that was it's a sloppy run. Like, yeah, it was fun to watch, but, you know, the runner was kind of sloppy. They're not going to remember the cool stuff you did. Unless you just do something mind-blowing and prove them wrong. But a lot of those, like, cringe compilation runs is because the runner keeps talking about how bad they're doing or that they're going crazy or whatever. Like, really being negative and focusing on the negative parts of the run. Or on the opposite ends, the runs that people remember fondly are the ones where the runner's having fun. They're having fun with their couch. They're showing off stuff really cool, talking about the cool stuff. Stuff like that. Like, if you have a really, really good run, and a really flashy, fun run, but you're being Mr. Negative the whole time, it's just not going to go well. On the opposite end, if you have a run that's kind of more comfy, it's not super flashy, it's just a fun BioShock 2 run, but you're constantly having fun, making interesting commentary, talking about the highlights of the game, people are going to come away with that, with a more positive reception to your run.
So I'm going to stand here so I can watch that door. But I need to see if any splicers actually come through it. Oh, 2 did.
Yeah, good fight. How the grenade setups.
Typically you won't get those 2 extra splicers, but
overall, there really hasn't been many changes in terms of the route. Like, pretty much all the skips are in this that we use today. There's obviously the Fontaine Futuristics 2 skip, which skips all of that. There's a faster fight for the second part here, which is a little bit faster, not anything considerable. There's like a strat in Atlantic Express to get out of the elevator a little bit quicker. Really, there's not much of a divergence in 7 years, despite the fact that the record's 7 minutes faster. That's just a lot of optimization. Maybe finding ways to do combat a little bit quicker. Things like that. Kind of crazy.
Means they survived the proxy mines.
But then again, we also talked about how it's really hard to break this game because of the way that it's sequenced. That's why there's not like a big 20-minute skippable thing. With the death warp, okay.
This is going to take us back to the main area where we're going to do the quote-unquote final fight.
I'm stepping inside the boss tank, Father.
Alright, so now that we have that going, we're going to come over here and stand on the steps.
There's no going back once
There's
we
actually
start.
kind of 2 tricks to do here. So there's 4 points on this fight where things can spawn, and I'm looking at all 4,
Here they come,
so they're not
Father.
going to spawn.
Hold them off until I can bring it to a boil.
Yeah, this game likes it to, like, it wants splicers to be hidden, like, for them just to pop up. So if you're looking at where their spawn point is, the game will try not to spawn them, which is why the second part is done faster now, because we look directly at where the 2 spawn points are, so the game's just like, hey, we don't want to spawn these enemies because you're looking at right where they would spawn, so you can just go ahead and move on. That's the case for a lot of the enemies here, except for the 2 alpha dies, which I think I mentioned. But yeah, there's like 2 spots on each side of the map where they tend to spawn in. Eventually the game will spawn in something, because it just wants you to fight. You just can't avoid that entirely.
So typically on the right side is where the Alpha Daddy spawn, on the left is where the Splicer spawn. If I do this for long enough, it'll actually make them spawn like behind me, down here. So at this point I'm just gonna move on. Go off the second trick.
So the idea behind this, like, it doesn't matter, this fight is just on a timer anyways. But the reason behind doing that is because typically what's going to spawn in is you're going to have 2 alpha daddies, and you'll have like 3 regular splicers. And the alpha daddies want to approach you in like melee range. So it's really easy to put down a decoy and have them just focus on that, and then you're just free to stand wherever you want, and you don't take damage, you don't have to worry about dying or healing or anything like that. If the splicers are in, they attack from range because they have guns. And so they'll just, even though there's a decoy, a lot of times they'll walk around the arena because they have range, and they'll end up shooting you, and it just becomes a real hassle. So rather than dealing with that, you try to unload the splicers and just have the alpha daddies in.
So a really nice thing about this fight is it's entirely on a timer, meaning I don't need a fight at all, which is why we have decoy. So there's a splicer. There's his target.
This is one of the guys that you would, obviously you want to stand where the next interactable is going to be, which is the switch. But it's also right in the middle of the room, so something with range likes to really shoot you there.
Target.
Even though there's a decoy.
So I could actually fight these splicers and I want to make a difference, but if you kill this wave, you spawn in a wave consisting of Houdini splicers and brutes, which is not fun for anybody. So I'm actually going to get something back here.
I don't know why I did this.
So where I need to actually be is in the middle, but
I think I pulled out electro bolts that could shock the pipes when they break. It's like a little bit of extra damage.
Really matter. I'm just gonna kill him anyways.
There's also a strat if you don't feel like just messing with decoy or anything like that. You can die and just sit in the Vita chamber. It'll continue the fight. The only reason I don't really like that strat is because then you have to kind of figure out the timing of when you need to get out of the Vita chamber and walk up to the top. Or you just like wait long enough, and then once it's active, you exit and walk up, which is losing time. I just prefer to be on the top part of the map. But I know some other runners use the Vita chamber to make things less frustrating to deal with, I guess.
This is typically why you don't spawn in brutes. They're just a pain to deal with.
There's literally nothing being said for like a full minute here. No commentary, no couch commentary, no donations. Nothing.
You just need to put down that last decoy. Should be about done. And time.
Woo!
Alright.
That's the guy? Alright, that's a time.
And do we have a winner for the bid war?
Oh, did it?
The winner for the good end versus bad end is... Oh, 1 second, let me refresh. It actually ended up a lot closer than it was before. It is the bad ending.
Alright.
Wow.
Oh well.
What jerk.
It's kind of surprising because every time I do a run, people want to see the good ending. Nobody likes the bad ending, so...
Maybe people want to live on the edge this time.
The bad ending wins.
Yeah. There's actually kind of two endings. One is based upon how you interact with the people, being Grace, Sinclair, not Sinclair.
Just a bad ending? No.
Stanley and Gil.
So I'm kind of talking about here, how you deal with the people determines that. But the end, you just kind of always get to choose based on how you interact with the little sisters. I kind of spaced out during Dionysus Park. I don't know if I saved one. Usually you save one in Dionysus Park, or at least the old route used to. So you got that choice. I think you still technically get it, because we didn't interact with that many little sisters.
Which is this part with...
I want to say if we interacted with one more, you would always get the bad ending, but maybe
Lamb.
not.
And then the actual choice that we get to make at the end.
And then, Father, the rapture dream was over. You taught me.
Yeah, what Eleanor does here with Sophia is based on just the route, because we don't interact with Grace or Alexander. Well, we kind of do. All that good stuff.
And wrong are tidal forces, ever shifting.
Then the end is based on
To survive in
the
rapture,
little sisters.
Father, you took what
So
you
since we
needed
let
from
them all
innocent.
live,
But when the guilty
Eleanor
posed
doesn't kill
no
Lamb
further
here.
threat, you simply walked away. I wanted Mother dead. But broken as she was, how could she hurt me? Now, she will grow.
She doesn't kill her, but she kind of just doesn't help her either.
I rejected
Just
her.
lets her drown. She remains a neutral.
What a
walks
cruel
away.
fate.
I'm pretty sure if you kill all of the NPCs along the way, then she just actually kills her there. Yeah, so it's not even just like bad or good ending. You get like the good ending, the bad ending, and then like a good bad ending. Like if you save all the little sisters, you get like the super happy positive one. If you harvest all of them, then you can make the choice. Or either you sacrifice yourself, and Eleanor's like, "Oh, it's so nice. I'm happy now," or something like that. Or you get the bad ending where it's like she sucks up your atom, and then she's evil forever.
There you guys go. Bad ending.
There you go.
For some reason, the dialogue's not playing out. I don't know if that's due to the diary skip or some setting, but...
You should totally ad-lib it. I'm sure you could pull off a good Eleanor.
The best. There's actually multiple endings besides these two, but these are like the generic bad and good ones.
It's Lighthouse. Oh my god. There's just no dialogue.
And there you go. It's BioShock 2.
Woo!
Thank you, BloodThunder.
Thank you, BloodThunder. Yeah, the water in this section is really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of already summed everything up, but my commentary is a lot better than I have ever given it credit for. I mean, I haven't watched this run ever. It's one of those ones like I don't want to watch this because I'm sure my commentary, even though it's not cringe when I go into cringe compilation, but to myself looking back, it'd be cringy, which it really wasn't. I'm actually pretty happy with how that went. Obviously, I'd do it better nowadays. More experience, more competence. Even if I didn't have more to add, I would at least call for a donation during some of those downtimes just to kind of fill the air. There's a lot of that. Unfortunately, BioShock 2, while it does have some really cool tricks to it, they're not like mechanically difficult to explain. It's just kind of like you see what's happening. That's all there is to it. And then everything else in between is kind of like fast gameplay, more or less. Yeah, just drill dashing around or maybe doing some death warps here and there. But once again, once you know what a death warp is or what drill dashing is, it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, oh, okay, you're just doing this from A to B. You're good. You can fill that void with like commentary on the game, what's happening in the story, which I did briefly here and there during some cutscenes. Very, very minor stuff. And then, obviously, there's that one donation the whole way through. Which, hey, this last GDQ, the one that just happened last week, I only had one donation. Obviously, I was talking a lot more and there wasn't time for donations, but it's a weird trend. I feel like, I don't know, maybe some of the other runs I've did in between had more donations. I always feel like there's more donations read than there ends up being. I don't think there was a whole lot during the BioShock 1 run that we watched. That was also months ago when I watched it. I don't think there's too many. But yeah. Nothing too shabby. Anything at the end? Or
this man's Twitch.
Setting up for the next game.
You know, it doesn't